Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to On the Clock, the podcast where me, Blue Chip Prospect, and the Prospect Don speak about or talk about prospect and the draft itself. Today, we have two main subjects. First one is going to be talking about the comparable, the NHL comparable for the top 16 or the top 10 or something like that. And we're also going to talk about basically ranking players on trade value. It's an idea that came from a guy that watch our podcast, sent me a DM on Twitter, and asked me if we could do a video about that. And I was like, it's a good idea. Don't have the time to make a full video about it, but we can definitely talk about it on the podcast and basically rank them as trade value in the future. So those are the two main subjects today. And I think we're going to start with the comp. Was that the idea?
Yes, sir. I think the comps is the best one. Oh, to start with.
Cool. It's the best one. The other one's not good.
Totally disregard that guy that said
yeah, exactly. All right. So, did you want to do the honors?
Sure. Yeah. So we'll start with the 250th ranked player, then work our way down.
Yeah.
We'll start with Matthew Schaefer. Matthew Schaefer, his comp for himself is actually Cale Makar. His assistant coach at Erie is Cale Makar, but he also added somebody. He added Miro Heiskanen, and this is a comp that I actually had for him because of a person named Rocco who joined us for the mock draft on the Prospect On show. That is just me that I added show at the end of it, and it kind of spiced it up a little bit. But I really like Drew Doughty as well, who Cam Robinson also comped him as a Drew Doughty-esque player. I really like these picks because, to me, it's just elite defensemen. Top pair, 25 minutes a night. They're going to win you games. They're, the comps are a little heavy with Cale Makar because I don't think that Matthew Schaefer is going to score 30 goals in a season. That's just absolutely incredible. Cale Makar actually put up better goal numbers per game, I believe, than Austin Matthews this season, which just is mind-blowing to me. But, yeah, I think Miro Heiskanen and Drew Doughty are my comps for Matthew Schaefer.
I think Miro Heiskanen is basically the comp everybody gives for Schaefer, which makes sense. Great skater, decent size without being like a 6'4" beast or something like that. Plays with speed, has skills offensively, but can defend at a high level too. So I understand it, but the more I talked about it and the more I thought about it, and the more it makes me think of Roman Josi in Nashville. Like same type of skill. I think maybe Roman Josi has a little bit more of offensive output, maybe, but like he has same type of size, he has the same wheels, same type of mind offensively. Defensively, he's aggressive. Roman Josi is like the cross-checking the defender in Nashville. There was an article like years ago on The Athletic. No, was it on The Athletic? No, it was on the Players Tribune. Do you know what that is?
Yes.
Yeah. So on the Players Tribune, and it was like the top 10 defensemen in the NHL, and I don't remember who was talking about it, but one talked about Josi, and he was saying like, "Oh, this guy is relentless." And I think like Schaefer has the same type of mind where he's going to be very aggressive on a puck carrier, and he's going to cross check and hit him, and just using his feet to catch up and using his feet to always be on the side and push him to the outside. Really, I think it would be a great comp. But something between Miro Heiskanen and Roman Josi is what it makes me think of.
I love the Roman Josi comp. It's one that I think you talked about a little bit, but now I have time to simmer with it. I think that might be one of the perfect comps for him. Obviously, you say, he's just an elite top pair defenseman for Matthew Schaefer. Yeah. So these are all top pair guys.
Yeah. So with number 2, I guess we go with Michael Misa. That's basically the consensus, right?
I hope not for the Blackhawks. I hope the Sharks take Desnoyers, which is kind of being rumored right now for no reason why, in my opinion, because they want more of a true center. So go ahead, Sharks. Go ahead, take Desnoyers.
Yeah, that would be great for you.
Well, I still want them to take Cam Schmidt at 3.
Yeah, okay. Good choice. But personally, for Michael Misa, I have a hard time with the comp with him. I've said Tim Stützle before, because Tim Stützle can do a little bit of everything. I think Misa is probably more diligent off the puck than Tim Stützle is ever going to be. I think Tim Stützle is probably a more dynamic skater than Misa is ever going to be, even though Misa is a good skater. I've seen like Corey Proman said Tyler Seguin, and I think that's it's a good comp, but if I had to choose between both, I would probably go with Tyler Seguin over Tim Stützle now.
You know, I think that's a really good comp. My comp would be more of a Jonathan Toews-esque player with more offensive upside and less defensive Selke-esque like Selke echelon. But his player comps for himself were on the wing, Kucherov and Kaprizov, which I thought were interesting because he talked about those in the media presser at the Combine being his two comps. And then I asked him at the media scrum, who are your center comps for yourself? And he said Sidney Crosby as well as Bergeron. And I like those two as well because he didn't really give center comps at all in his first kind of choice, and everybody's kind of talking about, is this guy going to be a center or a winger? I think either way you have a really elite player. I'm going to say Jonathan Toews because except with Jonathan Toews' playoff faceoff numbers were absolutely incredible. He never really lost a faceoff he needed to win. So obviously it's not like that per se, but basically the type of player he is, Captain Serious kind of. I mean, he's very modest and humble and down to earth, but he wants to win hockey games. That's kind of the difference. He's not going to be playing video games. I don't even know if he knows what a video game is. Like Michael Misa's hockey, and that's kind of Jonathan Toews-esque.
Yeah, true. It's funny because you say like he compared himself to Sidney Crosby, and I think the elite prospect has as a comp Macklin Celebrini, and Macklin Celebrini was compared to Sidney Crosby most of the year. So it kind of makes sense. Obviously, it's Sidney Crosby died down like by 50%, something like that. but it's still like same type of player. Personally, I don't really see it that way, but I can understand people seeing it that way, though. All right. So you want at number 3, you want to go with who?
For number 3, I want to go with the top player on my board left, and that's James Hagens. Okay. And I think more echelon of Logan Cooley, high ceiling of a Jack Hughes, but I don't think he's Jack Hughes. I think they play different games, even though that's his player comp. When I asked him at the Combine, I would say Frank Nazar, except Frank Nazar might be a more dynamic, explosive skater, but I think that James Hagens might be the better playmaker with the vision, but Nazar could get to the center of the ice. I don't know necessarily if James Hagens can at this level playing in the NCAA. Actually, James Hagens had better stats. He does try, but sometimes he gets stopped. But the thing is, like, that's if you're playing more physical with him, he's not as physically developed because he's 17, 18 years old, playing a role with Gabe Perreault and Ryan Leonard that he's not used to. He had to play in that Will Smith role, and that's just not really his game. He wants to be more finesse, even though Will Smith is. But Will Smith actually, even though he is 6 feet, but he's smaller, he plays more of a heavier game too than James Hagens, which is kind of interesting. But I would say that Logan Cooley, Frank Nazar, and then if he hits, like more Jack Hughes. What about you?
I think, those are a very like popular comp for James Hagens. A lot of people goes to Logan Cooley, and I remember the year of Logan Cooley in 2022 where he was way more competitive. And same thing for Frank Nazar, basically. Frank Nazar, obviously, he was doing it at the US NTDP level, which is not the same thing at all as the NCAA. But, like, I feel like he was tracking back so much harder and just trying to play defense and competitive and going to the corners and, like, battling for the puck just more efficiently and just better at it and just trying to do it more than James Hagens ever does, basically. Maybe it's because he's in the NCAA, so he doesn't really get the chance to do it or at least win his battle as much, but I feel like it's a bit hard of a comp. Like, I see the Jack Hughes because Jack Hughes is basically all dynamism and skill. It's not necessarily a hard-working type of centerman, and I think James Hagens is more in that type of range. I'm not saying maybe not in terms of potential because Jack Hughes is Jack Hughes, right? It's something different, and he's also way more dynamic as a skater. Like James Hagens is great, but Jack Hughes is like one of the top in the NHL, so it's very different. But a player that plays on the same team that he makes me think of is Jesper Bratt. Yeah, like obviously James Hagens is a center, and Jesper Bratt is not a center. So there's that. But I think in terms of style, the skating, the moving east-west, circling the offensive zone, trying to find passes to the inside instead of trying to go to the inside himself all the time and stuff like that. I think that's a little bit more Jesper Bratty than Logan Cooley. So,
and that's not set in stone that James Hagens is going to stick at center in the NHL. I think I think he would have a higher ceiling as a winger.
Yeah.
Because of his ability to play on the outside more, as well as how slick he is. And I think that he could pick up more speed on that side. Going into the middle, he looks a little scared. Not scared, just, it looks like he's more natural on the wing. And I like the Jesper Bratt. It's kind of, I think they played differently, and I think Jeff Carter was a better skater, but it's kind of like Jeff Carter-esque with James Hagens, and I might be on an island here, but it's just because of I think Jeff Carter was able to understand his role as well as get into the center of the ice over and over, and then they had that 70s line for the LA Kings with Toffoli and everything, and I kind of see Toffoli and Jeff Carter and James Hagens more, but more of a star version where I could see him working out.
Toffoli's boots were always an issue. So and for Hagens,
but it's his skill. Yeah, but so if you put them together, because Jeff Carter obviously has that great skating, and then you have Toffoli with his skills, so you add in the skating. I actually could see kind of that esque. I guess you remember. This is the last point I'll make, but kind of how Alex Turcotte was supposed to be. I could kind of see that with James Hagens. Yeah. I know I'm saying all
one thing
players.
Too is and one thing too is James Hagens, even though he wants the puck on his stick and he was thriving with it at the US NTDP level last year and at the U18s last year and U20s and stuff like that. In the NCAA, he looked better when he had less puck touches, when the puck touches were quicker. Instead of keeping the puck on his stick, trying to gain the zone and try to get to the inside or move along the board and stuff like that, where he would be stopped and pinned on the board and then couldn't do anything with the puck, or at least gain entry, but then nothing's coming out of it. Well, when he kept the puck touches quicker thinking and distributing the puck instead of just keeping it to himself, I feel like he had more success in creating plays. And that's very Toffoli. Toffoli is not a guy that keeps the puck on his stick. He's a guy that's open and then gets the puck and then immediately decides if he shoots or if he passes it. So it's obviously there's a difference in skating and all that stuff like we said before, but it's I can see what you're saying.
I appreciate you saying that. I'm just really good at this, I think. So
okay, yeah, that must be it. I mean, all right. So next player, I'll go with Porter Martone. And Porter Martone, there was all kinds of comps all season, going from Brady Tkachuk and Matthew Tkachuk and all those physical players, which he sometimes is, not all the time. It's not necessarily consistent. He's also not a fantastic skater like most of them. But my favorite comp for him, and obviously he's a long way from that, is Mark Stone, a guy that can think the game at an elite level, doesn't have great boots, but can move the play forward instantly, pre-thinks basically every play. He knows his options, he knows what he's going to do with the puck before he even gets the puck, so he can just move it quickly. Great shot, great passing ability, great defensive ability, great physicality, a little bit of everything, and that's basically what he makes me think of.
His player comps are the Tkachuk brothers, Corey Perry. The thing about that is he doesn't have the meanness in his game. He's a lot of soft skill. He is big, but he doesn't play big. I think Victor Eklund plays bigger than him, even though he's 5'11". I would probably also lean Mark Stone. I really like this comp. I've heard it time and time again from you, and it just kind of clicks for me. It's a player that can also play in the playoffs. I think Mark Stone might also be meaner, but as Porter Martone ages, I feel like he can increase that engagement level and aggressiveness. I think Martone could be a playoff player. If you get under this guy's skin, he is going to also want to kill you. But the thing is, he's also very smart. He's not going to make the stupid penalties. I think that in the playoffs, it's going to be hard to get under his skin because he's all hockey. I actually think that's a plus in his game and not a minus. Yeah. So, I mean, as a 17, 18-year-old, you don't want a hothead at this point. If that was, people would be knocking him for doing that. So I think we're kind of nitpicking Porter Martone a little bit, but Mark Stone is the comp of mine because of blue chip prospect and what you've told me throughout the season. It kind of clicked. It was more Matthew Tkachuk, but he's not Matthew Tkachuk. I don't think anyone's Matthew Tkachuk.
No, I don't think he has that. It's not like Mark Stone is an easy player to play against. Like he's probably terrible to play against. I don't play at that level, so I don't know, but I mean I can see it when when he was in Ottawa, we didn't like him. Now he's in Vegas, we still like nobody likes to play against Mark Stone. He's like probably one of the best pass interceptor there is in the NHL. And he's just big and physical. He's slow, like Martone, but I mean he's so quick. He's such a quick thinker that it just makes sense to me as a comp. So, yeah.
Nobody likes to see Mark Stone play. Not even the Golden Knights front office because they love that LTIR slot. So I'll leave him with that.
I saw it coming. All right, go to the next one.
You want to go Fondell or Desnoyers? It's up to you.
Go Fondell.
Okay. Who's yours for Fondell?
Oh, you want me to go first?
Yeah.
Okay, because I just did Martone.
I can do it.
It's fine. Whatever.
Okay, you go.
Yeah. For me, Fondell is another one that's a little bit complicated because I'm not sure what the ceiling is. Like the more I watch and the more I hear people, and the more I'm like, yeah, I like him, but. Like before I started to read all those things and listen to other people, like in the season, usually I try to keep it tight and just don't read too much into other people's stuff, like Corey Promen and all this stuff. I try to just do my own research and evaluate players. And I didn't really like him at that point, but now I'm reading a lot of stuff, listening to a lot of stuff, and I'm like, oh yeah, now I like him. So they're basically like changing my mind a little bit. Yeah. But I can see anything from Anton Fondell, which is a very frequent comp. I don't believe in the Barkov type of comp because that's just probably too much high of a ceiling, or something in between, which is like a Sean Monahan, a player that can make quick decision with the puck, that has a hard shot, can distribute the puck, but it's not like his strength. Like he can play the short passes type of game, the give and go type of game, but he's not going to be the guy from the flank trying to cross ice a puck through legs and sticks and stuff like that. That's not his game. And I think Anton Fondell is a little bit the same thing, where he's going to shoot the puck when he can, small distribution or connecting plays when he can, and that's where his offense is going to come from.
Yeah, I really like that. Also, one of the ones that Fondell said was his player comp after a great Ben Pope from the Chicago Sun-Times followed up with him was Anze Kopitar. So Anze Kopitar, Barkov, I don't see that. But also I will say this guy has a wicked shot. One of the best shots that I've seen, very heavy. Carbonneau obviously probably has the better shot because he can change his arm angles. I mean, he can shoot when he's falling.
He has a better wrister, not the better one-timer, that's for sure.
Yeah, I completely agree. Fondell is the best one-timer in this entire class. If you get this guy in office, like Ovi, like obviously no one's like Ovi, but if you get this guy in office and he feels comfortable, and on the power play especially, this guy could put 40 goals in the back of the net because of how much power play time this guy could be getting. He could actually be a superstar in the NHL. Somebody that I continue to see is the Anton Fondell, and I love that comp because their names are both Anton and their last names sound like each other. But other than that, like I could see, like, Leo Carlsson obviously was talked about because they obviously are both Swedish. They kind of fit the same pedigree. Both Swedish prospects that were drafted top 3 in the last couple drafts, because I believe Anton will be the Blackhawks pick at 3. But I don't see that either because of that shot. And also I think Carlsson is the better player overall. But one player that I think kind of comes close to an Anton Fondell is a player like Marian Hossa without the selkiness. And also I think Anton Fondell has a better shot than Marian Hossa, but I think Marian Hossa was a better playmaker, had better vision, and could also play drive. I think Anton Fondell needs to work on all of those things as well as transition and back checking. And but the thing is, Fondell is also more physical than Marian Hossa. So I could see. I mean, Kyle Davidson was in the facility when Marian Hossa was there winning them championships. Does he see him as a Marian Hossa-esque player? I mean, it could be similar. I know that they might see Caleb Desnoyers as that being a Taves one. So if they're just trying to rebuild the Blackhawks dynasty, which we've kind of heard over time and time again, would Fondell be that Marian Hossa-esque player for the Blackhawks? I think so. I think they have maybe a Patrick Sharp and Frank Nazar. So maybe they add to that pot of steaming 2010 to 2015 Blackhawks, who were the best team in the league ever for all those years. I mean, so
sure
don't at me in the comments. I tried to sneak that in there, but
okay.
yeah, Marian Hossa-esque.
All right, that's a high ceiling to reach. Like, it's not that far off from Barkov. Marian Hossa was a hell of a player, like one of the best in the league, and yeah, okay, cool. I mean, I can see more like Josh Norris, Bo Horvat. Like, he's a mix of a lot of players together. There's no perfect comp, but there's never any perfect comp anyway. That's why I hate doing it, but we're doing it anyway. but yeah, okay. Well, man, if Chicago takes him, I hope for you guys that he becomes a
Gretzky,
Marian Hossa. So then we can meet in the playoff and see who's better. All right, cool.
I'm sorry for the Habs fans that have to go up against the Blackhawks' next generation of dynasties in the playoffs, because we will win. So
yeah, we'll be attacked by all those 5'9" mosquitoes. Not that we're much better. Like, we're not that much bigger. The only big player we have is like Dak, who can't play, and Slavkovsky. So
yeah, you're definitely welcome for Doc. That was a good trade for both teams.
Yeah, let's hope he gets better. All right, so next one, you can start this one.
Caleb Desnoyers compared himself to Jonathan Toews. I really like that comp. I think he has better personality than Jonathan Toews at the end there. I think funnier. Shout out Jonathan Toews, who came back to the NHL with the Winnipeg Jets. I think that Caleb Desnoyers is a true center, so insert any true center that is going to be awesome in the faceoffs. Obviously, he was hurt this year with the 2 bum wrists since probably November, December, and had to play on the wing, so he's versatile there. I think he has a really high offensive ceiling, so I would say, less Selke, but still Jonathan Toews-esque player, where he is also good defensively, because Desnoyers was really good defensively. I think he had some defensive laps in transition, and just he was getting bored in the queue. So I think we haven't seen the best of Desnoyers at all yet, even in this league where he could have kind of dominated. But I think the perfect fit would be Jonathan Toews.
Yeah. Well, You said Jonathan Toews for Misa too, no?
Yeah, but I feel that,
and they're very different.
Misa has a way different offensive upside, and Desnoyers is the defensive aspect of Jonathan Toews. So like I said with Misa, you're not going to get that Selkiness. With Desnoyers, I feel like you're coming a little closer. I think that Desnoyers could definitely be, like, say Mitch Marner-esque if you're playing center. Like, because but I think he can actually play in the playoffs. So Mitch Marner, I think, was 7th in Selke votes one year, and that was like the most any forward has gotten in a very long time. I think that you can potentially get a Selke, a top 5 Selke finish for Desnoyers one year, and I don't think we will ever see that with Misa.
No, I don't think so. I think he has the work ethic. I don't think he's at that point, or will ever get to that point anyways. I mean, nothing's impossible, but I would doubt it. Personally, I have a problem with those expectations when they're that high. Like, I understand when we do like comps like that, it's not like the potential ceiling that we're talking about. It's more about the comp itself. I think for me, Caleb Desnoyers is like a bit of mix of Nico Hischier and like Joel Eriksson Ek. something in between that. Like, I don't see Desnoyers as a high ceiling type of offensive player. I think he's better than what a lot of people think. Like, some people are saying he's a maximum 50-point type of center. It's not impossible, but I would bet that he's more around like a 65, 70 type of point player, which is a little notch under a Nico Hischier, and I think Nico Hischier is also a more dynamic skater, but I think he plays a very similar game. Like, it's obvious that Desnoyers has a lot of skills with his hands, and even with 2 broken wrists, he had skills. So and he can shoot the puck. He has a tremendous vision. He's really good at identifying passing lanes and getting the puck through the legs and through the sticks to the other side of the ice. So just making small NHL plays that get the puck closer to the net. He's very good at that. And I think like that's a good mix of Joel Eriksson Ek and Nico Hischier. Like, which one exactly, I don't know. There's no perfect comp like we were saying, but I think it's a good mix.
Yeah, this is why this experiment is hard, because obviously we go to best upside play. I think it's like, this is not their floor, obviously. Jonathan Toews is not their floor, and also it's not Jonathan Toews at his peak, in my opinion. I think it's Jonathan Toews as he's tailing off of his peak, or like first couple years Jonathan Toews too. Like, when we talk about like if a player is compared to Sidney Crosby, which was the comparisons for Macklin Celebrini, it's not like you're gonna get Sidney Crosby every year. You might get him 1 year or at his peak, and it might not even be Sidney Crosby's peak. It might be Sidney Crosby's worst year, but you're still getting a Sidney Crosby-esque player. But that's why it's very hard with these player comps. But it's just kind of like taking what they're saying and also their play style and seeing how they can fit if they hit. And it's a huge potential. Like, I think it's like 50% if these guys become stars in the top 5 every year. You have no idea. It's like a coin flip. So and that's
there's no way we get out of this draft and we have 2 Jonathan Toews, a Sidney Crosby, a Roman Josi.
And if it does, this was a draft to cover, huh?
Yeah, everybody is thinking this draft is weak. No, it is not. We have 2 Jonathan Toews, 1 Crosby, 1 Josi, 1 Hischier. We're gonna be at number 16, and we're still gonna be like, this guy's an Enzi Kopitar. All right, so next one. Who do we do? Next one, Jake O'Brien, maybe.
Jake O'Brien. That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking
Jake O'Brien.
McDavid.
Yeah.
McDavid.
Yeah, well, a mix of McDavid and Draisaitl, something like that.
Yeah.
Like, he's 6'2", Draisaitl 6'3", so he's close. I think O'Brien is a pure playmaker, a pure passer. He does have the ability to get the puck in the net because he fakes like 20 things before he releases the puck, and he can change the angle on his shot. But he still needs to work on his shot, so I don't think like he's that much of a goal scorer. So I would go with a pure type of playmaker who can skate but doesn't necessarily have the greatest wheels and stuff like that. And I think he makes me think of a player like Robert Thomas. And Robert Thomas is a player that gets the puck in the slot consistently night after night, like multiple times a night. It was like that in junior. It's the same thing in the NHL, and I can see Jake O'Brien being that kind of player. Robert Thomas was a guy who was slowing down the game in junior. Now at the NHL level is a bit more like he can play with the pace. He doesn't have to slow the game down to make his passes, but he's a tremendous passer, one of the best pure playmaker in the NHL. Well, I mean, maybe not the best, but one of the best. And Jake O'Brien is what it makes me think of. He's just such a great passer. Like the passing skills are off the chart. The vision is off the chart. The deceptiveness in his stick handling is off the chart. And that's like Robert Thomas-esque.
Yeah, there's not really a good Jake O'Brien comp that comes to mind when I watch this guy, because it's all just great playmaking, has a ton of offensive upside ability. He's very raw, but he's still point productive in the O. On the power play, it's just the secret weapon for him. Every pass is flat. Like I say, he has great vision, great playmaking. His hands are phenomenal. He does have an underrated shot, and his defensive ability is not bad at all. Like, it's average in this class, if anything. If at worst, it's average. So I feel like Jake O'Brien is just a standard right-handed. I mean, Kirby Dach, if he hit, is not Jake O'Brien either, but also because I mean, they play differently too. It's really interesting. Like Jake O'Brien doesn't really have. Robert Thomas is a really good one. I wasn't thinking Robert Thomas at all when we started this, but I really
this or Crosby.
Yeah. I think it's very hard. I mean, he grew up watching the Penguins, so
maybe Gretzky.
Gretzky was overrated, in my honest opinion. Like maybe Paul Bissonnette for Jake O'Brien, or
yeah, same style.
Jake O'Brien's a tough one. Like, who does he play like? A better. No, that guy. I don't know.
There's not that many players that are. But there's not that many players that are as deceptive, like obviously deceptive as he is. There's not many players in the NHL that slows the game as much as he does. Like, because you probably can't do that in the NHL anyway. Like, the first thing every defender want to do, I see that all the time, is take away time and space. So if you slow the game down, they're just going to come on you harder and faster. So what he does right now is most likely not going to work. It's just like you're betting that with the vision, the IQ, the hockey sense, and the skills, he can like bring it up a notch in terms of space. So it's hard to find a player in the NHL that does that. I would say like Nick Suzuki in junior was doing a bit the Jake O'Brien type of slowing the game down, trying to find players in the slot or across the ice and just taking his time. So, but in the NHL, it's really hard to find. I think Robert Thomas, like I said, he's playing with a lot more pace than he did in junior. Yeah.
Would you say if Demidov didn't skate like 10x2 or how, like, it would kind of be Demidov-esque because he likes to slow the game down, but he can also, offensively, he's more of like an offensive genius, just like Michkov, but he tries to slow down the game?
Well, personally, I don't see it because Demidov, you watch an entire game and you can count on like half of his shift or half of his entries ending up in the middle of the ice. Like, his only goal with the puck is to find a way to bring it inside. Always. Like, if he's passing the puck, yes, okay, he's going to try to make you think he's going inside and go outside and bring the puck. Hi, doggy. Trying to eat your face while I'm talking about Demidov. But, honestly, I just don't see it because Demidov, it's not just that I think he's a superior player, because obviously I think he's a superior player, but it's just Demidov has a special drive for inside ice. It's not like he really slows the game down all that much. He's going to fake you with his 10-2s and stuff like that, but he's doing stuff full speed. Like, unless he's on the power play, he doesn't really slow the game down to try to make plays. He does them full speed. So, yeah, good luck finding your comp.
I don't have one at this point.
Okay, that's good. Well, we're going to keep Robert Thomas, and even though it's not perfect, that's fine. All right, so jump to the next one. You can choose the player.
I would say Roger McQueen.
Yeah.
Because Roger McQueen,
tough one too.
Right-handed center, 6'5". He compared the game to Ryan Getzlaf, and obviously Ryan Getzlaf is a Hall of Famer, plays the right way, very good offensive skill set. But if Roger McQueen actually hits, I think he has some of the top 5 potential in this entire class, maybe even top 3, because if he hits with his offensive skill set, he is going to absolutely cook in the NHL, in my honest opinion. Like, I think that would be a lot of scouts' opinions, so it's not really out of the blue here. But this guy does remind me of a Ryan Getzlaf-esque kind of player. The thing is, like, obviously, it's the best player that he could be, Ryan Getzlaf. And will he become that? There's probably a 30% chance he does. But the thing is, like, if he hits, he's going to hit big time. It's going to be a home run. It's going to be a grand slam. It's not going to be a single if this guy's playing. So yes, there's a lot of Hall of Famers that might be pro comps, but that's kind of the name of this game. It's like, if he hits. So, mine would be Ryan Getzlaf for Roger McQueen.
All right. One that I've said in my scouting report about him is basically like a Gabe Villardi with much better feet. Like, not I mean, Gabe Villardi's feet are better now than they were in junior, but in his draft year, they were atrocious, right? So they were like Nick Robertson level, not Nick Robinson, Jason Robinson level in his draft year. I think Corey Proman has him as Quinton Byfield, which to me doesn't make sense because Roger McQueen's a good skater, but he's not Quinton Byfield good skater. Like those are very different type of player. But I like elite prospect. They compared him to obviously this is not a ceiling thing. Let me preface that to Evgeny Malkin, like the type of game that he has. I like some of the element of that comparison because of the hands that the smooth hands at 6'5" and the smooth skating, but he's also wobbly the way he moves on the ice. But I think you get a mix of Evgeny Malkin and Gabe Villardi is basically what it makes me think, because Malkin was not that much physical, and but he was always injured, so that's good because McQueen is always injured too. Yeah, it's a tough one. I like the Evgeny one, but it's not perfect, and I like the Gabe Villardi one, but with much better feet, but it's also not perfect. So I'll let you ride with that.
Well, Roger McQueen could also be a Caden Lindstrom with the back injury, and obviously Caden Lindstrom's story is not even close to being written. It was probably just the front page, but the thing is the back injury is also an issue. He's been pain-free for about 45 days now, so that's a plus, and he got to participate in the pull-ups and the bench press. But with Roger McQueen, you do have some issues with floor there. Could he be a third-line center and kind of be injured a ton? It kind of reminds me of a Kirby Doc that the Blackhawks fleeced the Habs for. But the thing is, Roger McQueen is really talented, and I think he has more talent than a Kirby Doc. Not to hate on Kirby Doc, I was just shocked that he was the number 3 overall pick.
True. It's true. On the basic level, he does have more skills. He skates better also at the junior level than Kirby Doc did. The only similarity is they're good playmakers and they're tall. And they get hurt, yeah. And the same thing with Caden Lindstrom. For me, Lindstrom is a completely different player than Roger McQueen. First, the skating is not even close. Caden Lindstrom is a fantastic skater. He can really fly on the ice, and he's also way more aggressive going to the net, creating chaos around the net, jumping on rebounds, deflecting pucks. If you watch all his goals from last year, there's basically more than half of them are just him garbage goaling around the net. Basically, he does have a great shot. You can see him in motion, rip a dynamic shot, but most of his goal came from around the net. He's not a great playmaker, and Roger McQueen is more of a playmaker than a shooter, in my opinion. At least that's the way I see it. But it's hard to judge with 17 games. But yeah, I think they're not great comp either. So I'm gonna keep with my Malkin / Villardi.
Yeah, I think that is really good. I think next would let's actually do Brady Martin, because he's kind of running up draft boards. So I feel like this would be a really good play just to talk about Brady Martin and his player comps. I'm just going to butt in and say Tom Wilson and Sam Bennett were his, which is, I think, the superstar of the playoffs for the Panthers. Conn Smythe winner, obviously. But the thing is, that was the best answer he could have said at the combine. So does he believe he's a Sam Bennett? He also said Zach Hyman, which can... he scored 50 goals last season. So I don't know.
Well, they're not going to compare themselves to Paul Cotter. Nobody's going to say I'm Paul Cotter. You're
Shout out Paul.
No, I mean, he's a good player. I mean, he's physical and he does have some offense. But I mean, you're not going to compare yourself to Paul Cotter. It's just that simple. But I think the Sam Bennett one is the one that comes back the most. It's also, I think, a good one because Sam Bennett is not a superstar. He's a superstar in the playoff. He's an MVP in the playoff. But if you take the Sam Bennett from the regular season, he's a good player and he's a physical player. But he doesn't hit all the time. He's not he pick his spot to hit people. He's he gets under your skin. He has a hard shot. He drives the middle of the ice. And personally, I think Brady Martin has more natural skills than Sam Bennett has. But I don't see necessarily Brady Martin as necessarily a MVP in the playoff in the future. I mean, it's not impossible, but he does hit like a train, but that's his main thing. And I would say like his hands are probably the two best attribute for him. So I think Sam Bennett kind of makes sense. Like, take off the MVP thing and all this stuff. I think it makes sense because Sam Bennett, like I said, is not a superstar. It's like a 50-point player, and like Brady Martin is probably looking towards something like that.
Yeah, and my player comp for Brady Martin was Paul Cotter. No, I'm kidding. I think Sam Bennett's the perfect fit. Obviously, Sam Bennett exploded this year in the playoffs. It would be a lot easier to say Sam Bennett before the playoff run, but Sam Bennett also, Brady Martin could do exactly what Sam Bennett just did this year. Yeah. Go out there, play a physical game, and I would love Brady Martin on the Panthers. Obviously, there's no shot that happens, but if another Panthers team ever happens, and it could because the salary cap continues to go up, and obviously you would have to get some trade luck and lottery luck and whatever it is, but Brady Martin has the chance, if he's on Utah, to be that Sam Bennett type of player. I think he does go 4. I think that I don't necessarily agree with that value for the NHL draft. I would trade down. And if Brady Martin is gone and I trade down to say 8 or 9 and Brady Martin's gone, I'm fine. I'm taking best player available and then just taking the assets and accumulating everything I have. But if you take Brady Martin at 4 and he's not a Sam Bennett, I believe that it's a mistake. Not the Sam Bennett that we saw in the playoffs and continue to see in the playoffs, but I think that Sam Bennett and Brady Martin are very similar with where they're going to be drafted. Sam Bennett was obviously a top 5 pick. I think Brady Martin will as well. So I don't think it's out of the realm of possibilities. I do think Brady Martin might be the craziest riser we've seen since Beckett Seneca last year, obviously. I want your opinion on this just real quick for people watching. Like, do you agree with the Brady Martin going to 4 thing? And what do you think changed from him being ranked 14 to 4?
I think it's crazy. Basically, to put it simply, like I was saying yesterday, right? On the it's on your podcast. It was your podcast. It's gonna come out someday, I guess. Like I was saying yesterday, is that Brady Martin, before the U18s, there was plenty of lists where he wasn't even in the top 16. Like, he wasn't my top 16 because he was like exactly at 16, like on the edge of it. But now he moved up like a couple spots, but he's not in my top 10. I don't think he's a top 10 player in terms of skills. And I understand the move from Utah because like they were given that spot. It's basically like a gift to them by the NHL to get the 4th overall spot. They are already a team on the way up. They were already great. They were like 1 or 2 points behind the Habs, and the Habs made the playoffs, so all that good stuff. So they can pick and choose the player that they want. It's just like to move back, and everybody's gonna say that. Like, if you're gonna pick Brady Martin, you gotta move back, right? It's true, but you need somebody that wants to dance. Like, if nobody's willing to pay what you want or willing, like, to give you at least a fair deal for moving up to number 4, then like just take the player that you really want if you don't really like the other ones. But it would be crazy for me to grab him at number 4. Like in the top 10, I have absolutely no problem. I don't personally have him in my top 10. It's fine. But you take him at number 9, you take him at Boston number 7, 8, something like that. 7, yeah. That's okay. I have no issue with that. But 4 is really high.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. He's not in my top 10 either. I'm going to drop my rankings very, very soon, but he's not going to be in my top 10. He's teetering, but he's not going to be.
Yeah, it's not like he's not a good player. I'm not cooling down on him. Like, he moved up my board. It's just like there's a certain limit. And the way he plays in the OHL, like, nobody plays like that in the NHL, right? Nobody is a wrecking ball that has like 20 hits a game. Like, Brady Martin's going to have to pick his spot. Like, even the biggest and the hardest one to play against, the Tom Wilson of this world. Like, they will hit you. They will hit you when you don't see them coming. They will find ways to impact the game this way, but they don't hit everybody on every single shift like Brady Martin is doing right now. Brady Martin right now is an absolute wrecking ball. And like, nobody's like that in NHL. Like, it's much harder to hit in the NHL. Players are much better at rolling off the board and not getting hit, or just like a little quickie things with their feet and you end up in the board instead of them. So it's a different ball games. I think he's going to be able to hit people at the NHL level. I don't think it's going to be a problem, but I think he's going to have to pick his spot, which is going to limit the wow factor of Brady Martin.
And the last thing I'll say about this is, to people that are saying, why is he not in your top 10, Anthony? To me, I think it would be a disservice for me to put him in my top 10 only because I'm hearing he could go top 10. Because, like, I am hearing he's going top 10, but he's not in my personal top 10 rankings. I believe that there's a substantial difference between the two. Obviously, I could just put him in my top 10 rankings because it would make it more accurate. But in my opinion, I think there are better players that showed more the last couple seasons than Brady Martin did. And I feel that his increase in draft slot isn't because of his play between those last 2 months, because there was no hockey. It was the interviews. It was the team that has the number 4 overall pick because, like you said, they got gifted it. And it's because they're closer to other teams to making the playoffs. So I think that they're looking more at playoff performances.
Yeah. Good.
But next, who do you want to take here? Or like who would be your preferred next player?
Who wouldn't do? Like maybe Jackson Smith? Mm-hmm. Yeah, Jackson Smith makes sense. I mean, basically everybody's projection or comparable for Jackson Smith is always Thomas Harley, which I think it's mine too, so I can't say it's not good. Because, I mean, it's mine, but maybe also Travis Sanheim in Philadelphia, because Thomas Harley, like he's on the way up, and he's on the way up to the point where he already got Norris votes, right? So, like, I hate like doing comparison and like giving them a comparison like a player like that. Like it's like if tomorrow we talk about Cameron Reed. Cameron Reed is very good offensively. Am I going to say he's Lane Hudson? No. It's different. So maybe Travis Sanheim is more in like Travis Sanheim is a very good number 3, number 2 in the NHL, something like that. Like he's very good. He's tall. He's a good skater. He has offense. He has defense. He can be aggressive. It's not necessarily constant, but he can be aggressive. And it's basically the same thing with Jackson Smith. I think there's some work to be done on the defensive part of the game, even though he's sometimes physical. I think there's a little bit of work to be done on the decision making, the risk taking, basically just like cleaning it up a little bit. I'm not saying he's not an NHL player, but he does have also a lot of upside. But it's just a player like Thomas Harley, like he's like one of the young defensemen that exploded in the last year. So it's hard to say like Jackson Smith is Thomas Harley. It's just that.
Yeah. When I saw him say Harley and Hiskinen and some of these other players, I could totally see the offensive ability as well. And he's 6'3", he's good defensively. I see him as a more crisp Kevin Korchinski, and Kevin Korchinski was the 7th overall pick for a reason, to a team that absolutely cooked with their draft picks with Frank Nazar and Sam Renzel. I mean, if you're talking about, that was Kyle Davidson's first draft, and he took a risk taking Korchinski, but there was a reason for that. Korchinski lit up the WHL, and Jackson Smith didn't really light up the WHL offensively, but you could tell that he had a lot more to his game to dominate. This guy's only going to get bigger playing at Penn State, maybe with Gavin McKenna, shout out. And the thing is, like, I really do like Jackson Smith. I should have him as my number 2 defenseman. I have Murka over him slightly, but it's so close. It's the same tier player. I just go right-handed defenseman that's 6'6". But I really do think, like, if Kevin Korchinski wasn't put into the NHL too early and had the ability to go to the AHL right out of the WHL, or go to the NCAA, I do feel that he would have been a lot better instead of just that raw defensive player that really couldn't play defense, that was just trying to score goals every time he touched the ice. So I do feel that saying a better Kevin Korchinski and taller might upset people, but it's because Kevin Korchinski was supposed to be a legitimate star in the league offensively. Maybe not defensively, but he was supposed to quarterback a power play one, put up like 20 goals a game. I mean, his rookie year, he scored 5 goals, and they were beauties. They weren't just like him throwing the puck to the net. He actually dangled through multiple players on some of those and then crossed up play. I mean, he looked like a Allen Iverson with the puck on his stick sometimes. And I feel that Jackson Smith kind of has that ability. So I will say a better Kevin Korchinski, but it's not because it's not saying anything bad about Kevin Korchinski or Jackson Smith. Kevin Korchinski just was a dog. I really think that he can, but I wish that he reaches his full potential because you're going to see an incredible player. And I think that people underrate Kevin Korchinski a lot.
Yeah, well, he does have better feet than Korchinski at the same age, that's for sure.
And he's taller.
He does have, that too. But Korchinski is like 6'2", no, something like that.
6'1", 6'2".
6'1". Okay, so he's then Jackson Smith is like 6'3", 6'4". So yeah, he's taller. He's more mobile. He has more of an attacking mentality too. Like he's really aggressive offensively, and a bit like Korchinski in his own zone. It's a work in progress, if progress there is. So I mean, it's not that bad. It's just it's not constant. Like it's something that comes back with a lot of young players at that age, is finding consistency in the hard part of the game. Like when it starts circling fast around you, sometimes it gets hard for a player, and it's understandable. All right. So you want to do another one, or?
Yeah, you want to close it out with Murka, and then is there anyone else like Eklund, Lakovic, or HSN?
Yeah, you know what? I think I do like maybe we can go quicker because we already been like 15 minutes on this. But I think we can do like Murka, Carbonneau, Lakovic, Bear, Eklund. Like there's 5 players left basically.
Okay, but let's just do speed round. Yeah. Yeah,
like faster. That's good for you?
Yeah. Okay. So like Murka for me, his player comp was Moritz Seider, 6'6". Obviously, I already had said, you know him. I think that he could be more of a. He's not Moritz Seider, but he's like a tier under, and offensive ability is a tier under, but he can also increase his offensive play. So I'm gonna say, a worse or a poor man's Moritz Seider. Like okay. I understand, but yeah.
Yeah, I think there's actually zero comp that really makes sense with Murka. Like he's different from anything in the NHL right now. But I would say like a guy like a Marcus Pettersson with more size. Like Marcus Pettersson is not necessarily small, but just with more size, just decent skating, decent puck skills, can distribute the puck and shoot the puck and do a little bit of everything. Very rangy in the defensive zone. And something like that. Like I've said Colton Parayko before. I'm not sure if it's that great. I've seen from Corey Proman like Tyler Myers. I just don't like him at all. So I'd rather think that Ren Murka is better than that. And I think Marcus Pettersson, something like that makes sense. Want to go next with Eklund?
Yeah, let's go Eklund. Right. Yeah. So Eklund is an interesting player because he's 5'11", 170 pounds, but he plays a lot bigger than he is. So let's go to a lot bigger than they are. Marco Rossi kind of plays a little bigger than he is. I think he's different from Marco Rossi, though. I think I see a lot more upside with a player like Eklund, maybe what Rossi was in the first couple seasons. So, yeah, I'll say that.
Yeah. Well, Marco Rossi is like my comp for Rashny. Mm-hmm. So I won't use it here. I think Victor Eklund, there's a lot of people compare him to, what's his name, the guy in Philadelphia, Konechny. But I think Konechny is a guy that gets under your skin. Like, obviously, I'm not at the arena, so I don't see it. I also don't speak Swedish, so I wouldn't know it. But he doesn't seem to me like a Konechny. Konechny is just like terrible to play against. He's a guy that wants to get under your skin game after game, shift after shift. And I don't think Eklund is like that. I think Eklund is physical. Eklund is fast. Eklund is skilled. Eklund is going to play big, but I don't think he has that type of style. But I would say somebody like, I always forget his name, the guy in Carolina, Seth Jarvis. Sometimes Seth Jarvis is something that makes a lot of sense for me. Somebody who initiates contact on every occasion, wins his battle, gets the puck to the inside, have a good shot, good skating, good playmaking. That type of player.
Yeah, I think that would be an awesome fit. I heard the Konechny one from Victor Eklund. I felt like he should have said somebody like higher named. Like I think Konechny probably was the lowest ranked player out of anyone at the combine because everybody was just saying superstars. So I respect.
Yeah, but it's realistic though.
It is realistic.
Nobody's expecting him to be like a superstar in the NHL. Like he's going to be a good player, but he's not going to be a superstar most likely. And
I liked it.
Konechny is a very high level player. Like we're talking about a 70 to 80 point player that gets under your skin, that plays physical, drives the inside. Like he's a pure offense driver that's just a ton to play against. So, I mean, it's a great comp. I just don't think he has that element of getting under your skin. So Seth Jarvis is probably a little bit more of a good comp for me. But I mean, Konechny is, I take him on the Habs every single day and he's like 5'11", so I don't care. So.
Well, the one thing I will say is like everybody was saying like Sidney Crosby or Mario Lemieux, Wayne Gretzky, and I get it, but I liked and I respected Victor Eklund for saying Konechny, even though Konechny is an incredible player. That's like you can't score a point per game plus unless on a team like Philly, unless you're an incredible player. So
yeah, exactly.
It's a great comp. It really is.
Yeah. Next one, we go with Carter Bear. And Carter Bear, we've said it both before. We both think that he's some type of Brendan Hagel. I think you said he compares himself to him too.
Carter Bear, yep. Brandon Hagel.
Yeah, so basically, like that's what I said in my scouting report. That's what you told me that he was comparing himself to, and I think it just makes a lot of sense. A guy that like plays in the middle of the ice is just very competitive, very intense. Not necessarily the greatest skater, but can get from point A to point B adequately. Good skills, good shot, good playmaking. Like does everything well. Very intelligent player that just keeps getting better and better and better. So I'm really excited to see what he's going to do next year. But Brady Hagel is like a perfect type of projection for him.
I love it. He also said he watched Brandon Gallagher, but I think Hagel is more. So those are the two players that he said he grew up kind of watching and modeling his game after.
Yeah. So next, that's Carbonneau. For me, Carbonneau, I don't remember who I said in my video. Like I have absolutely no recollection of who I compared him to. But the more I see it, I think he has better feet. But the more I see it, I see him as a Philip Forsberg type of player, a guy that's intense, a guy that's heavy on the puck, that can hit, but is not necessarily like a dirty player or a hard hitter type of player, but just very competitive with a very hard shot, plays the inside of the ice, get to the net, like competitive. Leader through and through type of player like Philip Forsberg. That's how I see it now.
Like that's really good. That is really good. Like Carbonneau has an incredible shot. He plays a similar game like Patrick Sharp comes to mind because he was more of a sniper, but like he has a shot like a Patrick Laine-esque. But it's not like, this is, I would say.
Philip Forsberg's perfect.
Philip Forsberg is perfect. It really is. I didn't want you to win this battle, but it is.
There's not a comp that fit really well, and I think that one fits really well. So
yeah, that fits great. If he turns out to be Philip Forsberg and the Habs get him, like, holy moly.
Yeah, well, sometimes player like that are a little bit underrated. But I feel to begin with, I think his competitive fire and his physicality is underrated. Like a lot of people talk about his speed, a lot of people talk about his shot, but nobody really talks how competitive and hard he is as a player to play against. And Philip Forsberg was like that, and he's like that like times 10 now. So if he can reach that type of level, good. I don't necessarily think he's going to reach that type of level, like a 70-40 goals type of player. But if he does, great. But if he's a level under that, but plays the same style, it's also fantastic. So last but not least, Lyndon Lakovic. I tried to find a comp when I did my video on him like a week or two ago. I couldn't really find a good one, but I ended up with Kirill Marchenko, which is not perfect, but I think it's good because Kirill Marchenko has a lot of skill. Kirill Marchenko scores a lot of goals. He can be physical, like he can also take some night offs, which Lyndon Lakovic can also do. But I just don't know if Kirill Marchenko is a great skater or not. I don't have like any recollection if he skates well or not. But I know that Lakovic does skate well when he flies, he's fast. He's not necessarily always like explosive and stuff like that. Sometimes he has some issue with the separation from the board going to the inside. But I think when he gets going, he's really, really hard to stop. And in my recollection, Kirill Marchenko is similar to that, but I could be saying anything because I don't remember.
It's his comp has to be somebody that is, taller, 6'4" or above, or 6'3" and above, while also playing more of a 5'11" game. So
isn't Marchenko big? Marchenko is 6'3", no? Something like that?
Yeah. So I agree with your comp. But I'm trying to think for myself, like, who would that fit in that player profile? And, I feel like I know it's not Jay Kensel. There's not a lot of players that play like Lakovic does, and I think that
I hate Corey Pronman's comparison. Like he made him as a Anthony Manta, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, I don't like that.
Which, no, I don't like that at all. Elite Prospect
That's a disservice to Lakovic.
Yeah. And I mean, Manta was taken in the 20s or something like that too. So I don't think Lakovic goes all the way down to the 20s. And I think Elite Prospect has like Dylan Cousin or something like that. I think like maybe Dylan Cousin has more of a goal scorer because Dylan Cousin is more of a playmaker than a goal scorer. But I think the comparison kind of fit because they both have skating, they both have length, both have skills. It's just one is more of a playmaker, the other one's more of a shooter. But it makes sense too.
I would say Dylan Cousins. I'm a really big Dylan Cousins guy. I have no idea why the Blackhawks would not try to trade for Dylan Cousins when they saw that he was available. It was just a perfect player. Kind of seems like he could have been had for.
But he didn't have the piece.
Whole years.
But Buffalo wanted a player.
Players,
a roster player. So, like, who would you?
Well,
you didn't have roster player.
Yeah, I guess like Donato packages, Luke, Reichel, Korchinski, just any of these guys. Obviously, they probably didn't want any of that stuff. So
yeah,
I would have loved Cousins. He's a great player. Then I think would have fit really well with the Blackhawks.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. All right, so that's it for the comparison. So we can jump to the second segment of the podcast, which is basically ranking the players by trade value. We're gonna go over it quickly enough, I think, because it's been an hour already.
We could do like a speed round. Do it in like
speed
10,
round.
15. Yeah.
What I'll do is I'll go on Elite Prospect and I'll go to their list here. And, basically, like, obviously, if we start at the top of the draft, right? Matthew Schaefer, Michael Misa. Like, maybe Michael Misa is a little bit... It's hard to say, and that they're like, if Matthew Schaefer becomes what he can and Michael Misa hits his ceiling, Matthew Schaefer is a better player. So I think he has more value. It's as simple as that. And Michael Misa would be second behind that because he's center. But after that, it already gets a little bit more complicated. But I think like if you have a player like if Roger McQueen hits his ceiling, let's assume all those players hits their ceiling.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. It's gonna make it more equal and easier. Like after Misa, it has to be Roger McQueen. In my opinion.
Or Murka, because right shot defensemen that are 6'6" and a quarter, if he hits his potential, is going to be absolutely incredible. I would agree that it is Roger McQueen because it's 6'5" right-handed center. You can't make those in a lab. So both of those players probably slot in for 3 and 4 for me. I want.
Yeah, it's also I don't know what you're ceiling for Brady Murka, but I don't see Brady Murka as a number one defenseman, but I can see Roger McQueen as a number one center. So that's why I said Roger McQueen right away. But if you see Murka as a number one right shot defenseman as his ceiling, then well, obviously
if he hits,
no, obviously, but if you think that's his ceiling, like I don't think that's his ceiling. That's why I didn't name him. But if you do, then that's basically on par. Like I don't think Roger McQueen is a top of the NHL type of number one center. I think he can be a number one center, but like a middle of the pack type of maybe number one center. And like if Brady Murka is a middle of the pack number one defenseman on the right side, it's just as valuable, basically.
Well, we can lower him because Hagens and Martone also could. Or Desnoyers.
I barely hear you now.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, okay.
So, obviously, Hagens and Martone could potentially be higher, as well as Desnoyers as a true center. So, those players could go ahead of Murka if we see him just as a locked-in top 4 defenseman if he hits, not a first pair, because obviously that would be in Dream World. But, so let's say Murka goes to like 6, but we put Martone, Hagens, and Desnoyers. Where do you think those 3, or even Fondell, where would you rank all those
who's
guys?
number 5? Because you said Murka at 6.
Well, it would be so
One of the 3
2,
players
and
just
3,
named?
McQueen, yeah. And then Hagens, Martone could be 4 and 5, or Desnoyers or Fondell. So Murka could be at 6 or something. 7.
Okay, and we put one of those player. I think if Desnoyers or Fondell hit, I think they are the number 4. Like if they reach their potential, we're talking about 2-way players that can bring tons of offense too, that are big. Like Fondell is almost 200 pounds, 6'1.5", something like that. Same thing, but he's much lighter. Caleb Desnoyers, but he's gonna get there at some point. Like both their ceiling are, in my opinion, number 1 centers. Like if they hit, so if they're number 1 centers with defensive value. Like, let's say if Desnoyers is a Nico Hischier type of player, I think Nico Hischier has to be like number 4. Like, he's such a good player. And if Anton Fondell is something between a Joel Eriksson Ek, like I said earlier, or I don't remember who was the other one. Oh, no, that was for Desnoyers. I said that, right? I don't remember anything I said. Anyway, I think, I'll go with Desnoyers for the 4th position, but I think it's very close with Anton Fondell.
Yeah, I would say Desnoyers as well. When I was thinking true center, you have that Jonathan Toews-esque upside, and then you have Barkov if he hits his potential, and that I think I would rather have Jonathan Toews than Barkov historically. So, so Caleb Desnoyers, so it would be Schaefer, Misa, McQueen, Desnoyers, Fondell, and then maybe one of Hagens, Martone, or both of them, and then Murka. Let's push down Murka off the board a little bit too. I think I jumped the gun there just because 6'6" right-handed.
Quick question though. Quick question. You said you'd rather have Jonathan Toews than Barkov, even to this day?
Yeah.
Like not obviously at the same age. I mean, like in their prime, you prefer Toews over Barkov?
Not point production wise, but the thing is, like what Jonathan Toews gave you, like with his Selke,
but Barkov does too.
Back to back. I get that, but the thing is, like I think that Jonathan Toews is better defensively, and I think that he was also better. I mean, zooming out on the entire careers is probably close, but as a Blackhawks fan, like Jonathan Toews basically changed our entire franchise. I think Barkov also changed Panthers franchise, but it was more Matthew Tkachuk. You had. And I also think that on the other side you have Kane, Toews.
Yeah,
Hossa,
if you don't
Keith,
have Kane
like
and Keith
guys.
and Seabrook, I mean,
yeah,
it's a bit of. I think they're really close. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm not saying one is better than the other. What I'm saying is that I think it's really close in terms of value between these two.
Like for me, historically, I would have Jonathan Toews. For a Panthers fan, they probably would have Barkov. But it's just And I think that you can't go wrong with either player. And I think that if we had this discussion 2 years ago, it would obviously have been Jonathan Toews. But back-to-back championship runs changes things, and now they're the
3
next
years in a
dynasty.
row in the final. I mean,
Yeah.
that's pretty
And they were
good.
not supposed to. They weren't even supposed to be in there. Then they beat the best Bruins team of all time, and then Matthew Tkachuk just slowed down, and they could have three-peated. I mean, that Florida Panthers team is a juggernaut. Holy moly! Seriously,
Toronto screaming to get the Panthers in the playoff and then getting ripped by them. Yeah,
They did not want to play Bruins though. I think the Leafs might have lost either way. That Bruins team was a juggernaut just as much as the Panthers, but the Bruins did not know what they were getting with the Panthers. If the Bruins would have played their A game, knowing who the Panthers were, it might have been a closer series. But that series wasn't even close. So,
Well, I think right now that I don't know what's happening, but I think the Bruins are like bad decision after bad decision after bad decision right now. So I mean, I can let them sink. I'm okay with that.
And why?
As a Habs fan, I won't have issues, but
why would the Bruins trade Marchand right after the Panthers basically destroyed your franchise? Your franchise's best opportunity for a Stanley Cup, maybe the best Stanley Cup team of all time, and then you trade them to the people that just did that to you, for a second-round pick that didn't have conditions to make it a first. Like, what are you doing? Like, that did not make any sense. But
personally, I think it's just a case of the GM being nice to the player. I don't think, like, if he had to choose 100% where Marchand was going, I don't think he would have chosen to send him to the Panthers. Especially they didn't get much in return. Like, I think now they're getting, but now it's a first. I think because they went to the Stanley Cup final.
Okay, it was.
I think so, but it's still Marchand, right? It's one hell of a player, but I think it's more the fact, like, talking with the player, you're asking him, like, where do you want to go win, which team you think has more chance to win, and then you send them there no matter what's the return. Like, I remember the Habs doing that with Kovalchuk. Obviously, it's a much different level, like Marchand and Kovalchuk when he was back in the NHL are two different level of player. But I think Kovalchuk wanted to go play with Washington, if I remember well. And like that, like at the time, Bergevin, which was our GM, said that there was better offers on the table, but when you have a guy like Kovalchuk and he says that's where I would like to go play, you just send him there. It's good for your reputation. It's good for the player. Everybody's happy, and in the end, whether you get a third or you get a second, it's really not the end of the world in the big scheme of things. So we're getting sidetracked a little bit. So just to say, we have Matthew Schaefer at number 1, Michael Misa at number 2, McQueen at number 3, Desnoyers at number 4. Then did we go Murka now or Anton Fondell?
We did Fondell, and then
Fondell
we are choosing between Hagens,
like Martone,
or Murka. And I could say let's push down Murka because we both have different opinions, and obviously if you hit with him, he could be a top 4 defenseman regardless. So let's not just completely say he's going to be a number 1 defenseman. So let's go. So Martone, Hagens, or O'Brien, are any of those players, if they hit their peak, higher than Murka? And who's the highest? Like, we could argue this.
Man, yeah, this one's a tough one, parce que I'm talking to you in French parce que it's a tough one because I think like Hagen's probably the highest offensive ceiling of those players. Yeah. He's also a center, so if we say that he hits as a center. Jake O'Brien could be a good center. Does he have first line potential? Maybe, maybe not. I'm not 100% sure on that. I think he has more defensive value, though, than Hagens will ever have. And then you have Martone, who's not a center, who's a winger, but might have the best overall impact on the game. So it's like, let's say like for the Habs, you have Nick Suzuki at a point per game, and let's say you have Juraj Slafkovsky at a point per game. Like, who's better to you? Who has more value? The number 1 center or the number 1 winger?
Oh, wait, yeah. Suzuki for sure, probably.
Yeah, because he's center, but he's a 5'11", two-way center who can put up points on the board. The other guy is the guy that makes space for everybody else. He's the guy that goes in front of the net. He's the guy that does all the hard work. So it's hard to say. I think, like, we've seen players in smaller stature that have been traded for I would say not that much. I mean, nobody knew that Faber was going to be Faber. Well, when Fiala was traded, I know he was a winger, but when he was traded, he was already a 60 or 70 point player, and he was traded for a second and Faber. But nobody thought Faber was going to become what he became, right? So I would say if a player like Martone hit and he's like a Mark Stone type light player, I think he has more value than both Hagens and Jake O'Brien at that point.
I agree. Mine would be Martone, Hagens, and O'Brien. So I agree.
I would probably put Murka somewhere in there because if Murka hits as a first pair defenseman, I think he has more value than O'Brien.
O'Brien, yeah. So I agree with you. I think it would be Martone, Hagens, Murka, O'Brien. Because, like you said, the playoff just stature of Martone, I think he can win you a playoff series if he just goes overpowered if he hits his full ceiling. I think we see Jack Hughes being that. What happened to the Devils when they didn't have Jack Hughes this year? They just looked terrible. But also, we haven't really seen that playoff success for Jack Hughes. So that's the best possible outcome for James Hagens, and he still hasn't really shown. I mean, Jack Hughes hasn't really shown what he could do in the playoffs to the point that Matthew Tkachuk has, or Corey Perry. I mean, we saw Corey Perry, who has basically 10% left in the tank, maybe, and he put up more playoff goals than Mitch Marner has ever had just in the Stanley Cup final. I think that kind of means something. So, I think, with that said.
Yeah, but those smaller player, some are really good in the playoff, but some just don't have it. Yeah. It's really not impossible by the time that Jack Hughes is 26, 27 years old that he's a beast in the playoff. The whole New Jersey team. Yeah, exactly. The whole New Jersey team is not that great in the playoff right now. But right now, he just hasn't showed that he's there. And I think James Hagens, what are the chances that James Hagens is Jack Hughes? I don't think they're that big. Jack Hughes in his draft year was a record-breaking type of player. He was not a good to great player. He was out of this world good. It's a different level, at least to me. I mean, good for Hagens if he reaches that level, but I would never bet on that. That's for sure. But yeah, anyway, what he said makes sense. Which is Martone, Hagens, Murka, followed by, we said, O'Brien. And after that, there's player like Eklund, Bear, Carbon, Martin. Martin has got to go after that, I think. He's a center. Unless you prefer Bear or Eklund over Martin, but I think it's probably one of those three that's going to go after that.
I would say Martin because of the Sam Bennett thing and what he could do in the playoffs, and then I would say Eklund, and then I would say Bear.
Okay, let's say Martin is Sam Bennett. Okay, he reaches the ceiling. He's Sam Bennett. Victor Eklund is Seth Jarvis, or Konechny or Seth Jarvis. No matter what, I guess same thing. And then you have who's the third player we were saying?
Carter Bear. So Brandon Hagel.
Carter Bear is Brandon Hagel. Who's the one you want the most?
Yeah, Martin for sure.
In my Sam Bennett. Opinion. Yeah, but forget about the MVP thing because Sam Bennett is yeah, I mean, I said he reaches the Sam Bennett level. It's just Sam Bennett is the MVP right now in the playoff, but he's not an MVP in this season. That's my problem. It's
but none of
we're focused. What?
None of those players that we mentioned were even close. I guess trade value wise, Brandon Hagel, even before he became a thing, was traded for 2 first-round picks and 2 prospects. Sam Bennett was kind of on his way not to stardom and then kind of just blew up. So. And then Konechny is a 80-plus point per game scorer, so they're all very close.
For me, right now, I mean, and I'm forgetting about the MVP in the playoff, okay? Because this is not It's hard to say, man, because Sam Bennett is not is good, but it's not a great player in the season. But then when it comes to playoff, he's a freaking beast. So I mean, if that's the type of player that Martin is, then it's got to be Martin, because the playoff is everything that matters. But after that, I think it's Hagel, because Hagel is also not fun to play against, just like Konechny. He's not a fun player, but he put up, like this year he had like 80 points or something like that. So ton of points on the board too. Good defensively, bigger, heavier. Just, I don't know. He's a beast, man. Even for 2 first-round pick, when he was basically nothing, like it's his first year where we had a decent production. Even for 2 first-round pick, I mean, Brendan Hagel is so much better than 2 first-round pick. Like right now,
Like,
it's,
yeah,
it's
Hawks
not even
lost
close.
that trade. For sure, the Hawks lost that trade.
With hindsight, but at the moment, nobody expected Hagel to become what he became. So yeah. So I think I would go with. So I would probably go with Sam Bennett. Well, Sam Bennett, Brady Martin, followed by Brendan Hagel, which is Carter Bear, and then followed by Victor Eklund, which would be Seth Jarvis.
Yep, love it. We love it.
Yeah.
I think
we can stop it there, because I have I can't even follow the players anymore. So unless you want to keep going, but
no, let's close it out. It is
you had enough today, huh?
Here by me. It's not even that. It's just like we could go on for hours doing this. I really do like this. I think we should do it, more if possible, but obviously we will always think about what the comments say, and if you guys have a great idea, just post it down below, because this is fun. There's so much you could do with this kind of content just on all things NHL draft. So I feel like we could go for hours doing this, but at the same time, I think this is a good place to stop. We did both
1 hour 20 is pretty good. I think it's a good middle spot
for sure.
So so
like
for basically for people, like and subscribe, obviously, but also if you have any ideas for the podcast, just leave it down below so we can actually have ideas. And if you have questions too, like we want to do a Q&A, we're gonna get some questions from Twitter, some questions from my YouTube, some questions from a little bit everywhere. But if you have like question about a specific player or anything basically hockey related, just leave it down below, and we'll do our best to answer it. And on that, thank you a lot, the Prospect Don.
And thank you a lot, Blue Chip Prospect.
Yeah, you're welcome. And people, see you in the next one. Peace.